So this was January 2025. And in my humble opinion, it's kind of easy. It's kind of easy. So they said if it starts off with Rachel Cole is the owner of Good Care Beauty Salon. The salon consists of two departments, nails and hair. The nails department comprises five technicians and is supervised by Julian Jones. The hair department comprises seven stylists and is supervised by Kaylee Scott. Rachel co-manages the business and is assisted by an accounting clerk, Maxine Stamp. Use the information in the scenario above to complete the following organizational chart for Good Care Beauty Salon. The title and name of employees must be stated in each case. An example will be provided for you. So they put manager, Rachel Co there. I'm guessing that was the example, right? So you see this box here, how it's only connected to the line going to Rachel Co. None of the
Mm-hmm.
boxes underneath are connected to this box.
Mm-hmm.
That means that this person is giving support to Rachel Co. So you know how organizational structure is. There's a line and staff organizational structure. The
Mm-hmm.
staff part is the one that's giving support. This will be the staff function here. So we had to look for somebody who nobody is reporting to, and that person is there to give support to Rachel Co. And they said Rachel Co. manages the business and is assisted by an accounting clerk, Maxine Stamp. That is how we got Maxine Stamp accounting clerk here. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Then down here, we have the nails department reporting to this person and the hair department reporting to this person. They said that they have the nails department comprises of five technicians and is supervised by Julian Jones. So Julian Jones is the supervisor of the nails department. And then they have the hair department comprises seven stylists and is supervised by Kaylee Scott. So Kaylee Scott is the supervisor of the hair department.
Mm-hmm.
Not too difficult, right?
Yes, it's easy.
I agree, in my humble opinion. Right. Let's see, next part. State the span of control of the manager of Good Care Beauty Salon. So, the manager supervises directly Julian Jones, that is one. Kaylee Scott, that's two, but also Maxine Stamp, right? So it's three. Span of control is the amount of people that um Risha directly supervises, right? Technically. And then two, identify two potential sources of conflict that may occur between the manager and the employees of Good Care Beauty Salon. Right, so anything you could think of that could cause conflict, you could put here, right? So I have
Mm-hmm.
punctuality and regularity. If you're coming late all the time or you're missing a lot of work, that could cause problems, right? Could
Yeah.
cause conflict between you and the manager because the manager is not gonna like that. If they have poor working conditions, that could cause conflict because the employees aren't gonna like that. Right? If you're not paying enough, employees not gonna like that. If the employees aren't doing their job properly, the managers ain't not gonna like it. So you see, every situation is either one party doing something and the next party wouldn't like, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Anything like that, you could put as a source of conflict.
Mm.
And then they ask us to describe each of the following strategies used in the resolution of conflict in an organization. So the difference between mediation and arbitration, mediation is getting a third party to help you solve your conflict together, right? But the third party cannot make a decision for the other two parties. The third party can make suggestions, and the other two parties can decide if they want to agree or not. So management and employees having an issue, a third party comes, listens to both sides, offers suggestions. They could decide if they want to listen to it or not. Arbitration is different. They bring in someone called an arbitrator. The arbitrator will listen to both parties, but when the arbitrator makes a decision, it is legally binding. So when you bring in an arbitrator, both parties will be agreeing that whatever decision the arbitrator makes is what they will go with.
Mm.
So employees find the salaries are too low. They have a argument with management. They bring in the arbitrator. The arbitrator listens to both parties. The arbitrator decides that the salaries remain the same. That's the decision. The salaries remain the same. Right? You understand the difference between the two?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Then they ask to list 4 characteristics of a good leader. So any characteristic that will be helpful to a leader, you can list it here. Think about it like like this. If you can't remember good characteristics, think about a leader that you like. It could be fiction, could be a real life person, and think about what makes them a good leader. They
Mm,
might be,
okay.
they might be smart, they might be charismatic, they might be creative, they might be really skilled in their field, they might
Mm,
be adaptable, confident, any of those things. You put them in here, right? So I put like 10 different ones here. So you can have a good idea.
okay.
Creative, honest, innovative, diligent, intelligence, confidence, adaptability, self-aware, passionate, problem solver. Any of those could work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they said to explain 2 benefits of a manager adopting a democratic style of leadership rather than an authoritarian style of leadership. Right? So, authoritarian is when the leader makes decisions without consulting their subordinates.
Yeah.
And democratic is the opposite. They consult their subordinates before making decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. 1 second. All right. So anything that you could think of that would be an advantage of consulting subordinates first, you could put here. So when you consult subordinates, and you might get more ideas,
Yeah.
all right? Talking to your subordinates could help you develop better communication with them.
Mm-hmm.
It could help you create a better relationship with your subordinates because they may start to feel like they value your suggestions. You might learn more as a leader when you consult your subordinates because you
Mm-hmm.
might learn things from them as well, and they might learn from you. Anything like that, you can put as an advantage. All right.
Okay.
Now
Yeah.
the thing is, it's 6 marks, and they use the word explain. So you can't just state the advantage. You can't just say better communication. You'll get 1 mark for that. You have to state it and explain it. This is why I write so much. So I put
Mm-hmm.
democratic leadership can lead to increased creativity and innovation. So that's the benefit. And then I explain how it can lead to the benefit. As ideas from subordinates are also into consideration, this should be taken, T-A-K-E-N, into consideration, unlike the authoritarian style that does not consider the ideas of subordinates when making decisions. So I state the advantage and then I explain the advantage because I want to get all my marks. Right? So you look out for that as well. Look out for the words they use and the amount of marks they given.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There tends to be better communication under democratic leadership as it encourages or steady advantage, better communication, as it encourages information sharing, unlike the authoritarian style that focuses mostly on subordinates receiving instructions. So, state what the advantage was, and I explained it. And you see how in both cases, I tied it back to it being an advantage over the authoritarian style, not to just being an advantage of democratic style. It being an advantage of democratic style over the authoritarian style because that is what they ask for. You understand, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This whole paper, like our topics that we did in Form 5, like there's
Some
nothing, there's
some in
no
Form
new
4.
topic here.
Well, the lower down you'll see some topics in Form 5.
Okay.
But these are the Form 4 topics. But as it's saying, TXC is a 5 term syllabus. So everything you do in Form 4 and Form 5 could come.
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay. This paper going very easy so far,
So
I'd say.
far. Yeah, I agree. Ask you to define an entrepreneur. The person who takes all the risk involved in starting a business, hoping to make a profit. Every business student should be able to define an entrepreneur. Then, now the characteristics of a typical entrepreneur are actually very similar to the characteristics of a leader. All right, so they should be risk takers, they had to be smart, they had to be disciplined, creative, innovative, ambitious, passionate, diligent. Any of those things could work. Let somebody ones I use for the leadership, I could have put down here if I wanted.
Can I put
That's correct.
intelligence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Then B, describe each of the following functions of an entrepreneur in a business, conceptualizing. So this is the first part of creating a business, right?
Mhm.
Conceptualizing is thinking about the business idea, right?
Mhm.
Then bearing all the risk. To bear all the risk means to accept all the responsibility of what could go wrong in starting a business, right? And the consequences. So there's a chance that you could lose money, that is on you. There's a chance you could be wasting your time, that's on you. You're accepting all of that possibility. Accessing resources, this is where you get and you use the resources that you need for the business. The materials you might need, the finances you might need, the machines you might need, the human factors you might need. So you might need employees, you might need access to certain social networks. That's what it means to access resources, right?
Mhm.
Then they ask, outline 2 roles of entrepreneurship in the development of Caribbean economies. Outline, right? So they didn't say explain, they said outline, but it's for 4 marks. So I'm not just going to say employment and goods and services, but I'm not going to go into super detail as well. So what I said, they provide goods and services that may not have been previously accessible by citizens. Right? So I went in a little detail, but not too much because they didn't explain. So I didn't give an example and stuff like that. They also provide a good source of income via employment for citizens. Right? So I didn't just say goods and services, I didn't just say employment. I explain how providing goods and services was good for citizens in the Caribbean and how providing jobs is good for citizens, right? Because it will be goods and services they didn't have previously, is income they didn't have previously, right? They can also help develop the infrastructure in the Caribbean or encourage the government to develop the infrastructure around the places where there's a large amount of businesses. Um, they can also invest into various parts of society. There's something called corporate social responsibility, where businesses who benefit from society tend to feel that they should give back to that society. All of those things can help with the development of the Caribbean. The fact that there's new jobs could lead to people becoming more skilled so they could access these jobs. So they could increase the overall skill level of the labor force in the Caribbean. All of these things are ways that entrepreneurship could help develop Caribbean economies. If you think about it, if it wasn't for entrepreneurship, a lot of the things that we have now would not exist. You would not be in this class right now if it wasn't for entrepreneurship.
Mm.
You wouldn't be using that device that you're using right now if it wasn't for entrepreneurship. The furniture they're sitting now on would not be there if it wasn't for entrepreneurship.
Mm.
Then they said Karim wants to open a restaurant to sell fried chicken in the capital city of San Leo. Explain how Karim could comply with two government regulations or policies for the protection of the environment and or public health when establishing and operating the business. Right? So for sure, you opening a restaurant, you have to make sure that he's meeting all the health codes set by the government to make sure his kitchen is clean, the food that he's serving is safe, right? In accordance to all the food safety regulations. He also has to make sure that when he's disposing his waste, he does it in a manner that is in accordance to again, all the government regulations and policies.
Mm.
Right? So one of them I gave is one that was for the environment, the proper disposal of waste, and the other one was for public health. I say preparing food for the public, for people to consume, you have to make sure that it's safe, right?
Mm.
All right, so I covered both bases. I wrote a lecture explaining it because they asked explain, and it was for 6 marks.
Mm.
Right, so I didn't just say proper disposal of waste, I explained it. I didn't just say food safety, I explained it. And I made sure and mentioned the word government policies or government regulations or anything like that. See, regulations, government policies. Because they said government regulations or policies. All right?
Mm.
So far, so good. Number 3, they start off acting about cottage industries. We know these are home-based organizations that use local raw materials. They're normally small in size and they have family labor, meaning it's normally the owner who producing everything or they get help from their family, the sister, brother, spouse, parent, so forth. 1 second. All right.
The use of local raw materials, like for cottage industry, like it has to have local raw materials for it to be a cottage industry.
Yeah, that's one of the good things about cottage industries. You see, remember cottage industries, they invite tourism, right?
Mm.
Why tourists wanna come here and see things that they could get from their country, for example. They want to experience our country,
Mm.
right? So that's why Pontchartrain is considered a cottage industry. They use local rum, they use milk from local companies, spices from local companies to create it. Right?
Mm.
Doubles. It could be considered a cottage industry as well.
Mm.
All right. If
Yeah.
you're importing goods from a next country to sell over from home, you have a small business, but it's not a cottage industry.
Okay.
Then he asks, list 3 types of goods or services that are produced within cottage industries. So he gave some examples here. So you have like food, notice I put the punchacrum there. Jams. Some people just make homemade jams. They could do like pottery, jewelry, stuff like that. They can do fabric. There's people who do waist beads and things using local material.
Mm.
Anything like that would work, right?
Mm.
You'd have to go into detail because you just say list. And B1, state two advantages of small business operations. So what's an advantage of being a small business? So when you're a small business, the customers tend to feel a bit more familiar with you because sometimes you get to communicate with the owner themselves as opposed to a huge organization where they're talking to customer service rep one, right? So you tend to create better relations that way, right? As a small business, they tend to be way more flexible than larger businesses because there's way fewer things you need to change when you have to change your approach because of a particular situation. Because you're smaller, easier for you to do so, right? It's also easier to communicate internally. Because if I have three employees, I could communicate to my three employees way easier than communicating with 1,000 employees. And if I'm the owner, I could communicate to them directly. They could communicate with me directly, as opposed to talking to a manager who's talking to an ex-manager and so forth and so forth. Then it says state disadvantages. Right? So also just state, and it's 2 marks. I don't have to explain it. So they have less resources than large organizations by far. Right? They have greater financial risk because of these less resources, and the income can potentially be unstable, meaning 1 month you make a certain amount of money, the next month you make way less, next month you make me way more, and so forth, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
also difficult to attract high level labor because the high level labor will want to go to the large businesses that could pay more. I remember when before I planned to become an entrepreneur and I wanted to work as an accountant, the suggestion that was given to me was to work in small businesses first to develop your skill and then apply for large businesses.
Mm. Mm.
Then C, Jerome operates a small fruit juice manufacturing company in Spicetown. Recently, he has seen opportunities for the growth of the business and has been considering expanding. State one way in which Jerome's business could grow internally, so within the company. He could open new locations. He could expand his physical business right there. He could increase the amount of goods he's producing. He could buy more fixed assets, invest in more technology, hire more personnel. Any of these things will help him grow internally. But for him to grow externally based on outside factors, he could probably offer franchises. So you could say, here, well, you could sell fruit juice for me under my name. I'll let you know how to make it and stuff, but you had to pay me some money. Or you can merge with another company or buy another company, right? And again, I don't have to go into explanation because it's just state and it's 1 mark. Now here,
How much questions is this test?
five
Five.
questions and all. Yeah.
Only five?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Then here they said explain. the likely effects of expansion that expansion could have on the organizational structure of Jerome's business, right? So
Mm.
here I stated three things for what I should have done, even though it's 3 marks and stated three things, so I would probably give him 3 marks. I should have still explained it. So I should have said the changing in the or the expansion of the business can lead to more employees and the need for more departments. Right? This would most likely change the organizational structure from a simple line or line and staff structure to a more complex one, most likely a functional organizational structure. This will also increase the need for more management as there will be more employees to oversee. Right? So I talk about new departments, I talk about the organizational structure changing, and I spoke about the need for new management. Right? But I did it all three via explaining. Right? In this case, I just put the points so somebody could use them to create their own explanation. But that's how I would win the answer and get my 3 marks. Then they ask to define linkage industries. So a linkage industry is when the raw materials of one organization comes from the finished goods of another organization. So I either sell salt and you either sell chow. So my finished good is salt, but salt is just one of your raw materials for your chow. Follow?
Yeah.
Then they ask, explain one backward or one forward linkage in which Jerome's business could engage in. They said all right? So it's just one you have to do.
Mm.
But I put one of each. So you could choose from one, right?
Yeah.
So first one, a company that sells various fruits can be created to supply Jerome with fruits needed to produce his juices. All right, so Jerome's company exists, and the next company creates a company that can provide the raw materials for Jerome. That would be backward linkage.
Mm.
All right, forward linkage now. So think of it like this: raw material, um, gosh, finished product using finished product as raw material. So if it's going this way, so in this case, you have the finished product and the person created raw material, the business offering raw material for the finished product, that's backward linkage. If you have a finished product and somebody using your finished product as raw material, that is forward linkage. All right, so in the second scenario, Jerome's juices were sold wholesale to restaurants and they offered them as part of their menus. So his finished product was used as a raw material. That would be forward linkage. All right, so there's the origin, the finished product. If it's going backwards to, if the company that's created is providing raw material, so it's going backwards, that's backward linkage. If the company that's created is using a finished product as a raw material, then it's forward linkage.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So the restaurant could be using the juices to make cocktails and stuff like that. That would be forward linkage. So that is 3 so far. Number 4, list 4 methods of retailing. All right, so 4 methods of selling to customers. You could have an online store. You could have a supermarket. You could have specialty stores. You could have department stores. Department stores will have different sections that sell different things. Specialty stores will specialize in a particular store. Supermarket normally has a large variety of things they could find throughout the supermarket. And well, you know what an online store is, e-commerce, right?
Mm-hmm.
A consignment. So this is where a consignor provides goods to a consignee who stores, manages, and sells the goods. Right? And then the consignor will be paid a portion of the sale proceeds. So I give you the products, you sell it, you give me back some of the money. Right? You do all the work besides create the products. I organize the products, it's my products. I give it to you, you manage it, you store it, you sell it, you make the money, you give me back a portion.
Mm-hmm.
Layaway. Right, so the difference between layaway and hire purchase, right? One of the biggest differences. When I pay hire purchase and I'm paying small installments, as soon as I make my first down payment for hire purchase, I receive the good. And then the good is still not owned by me, but I receive the good and I could use it. And when I finish all my payments, then the good is officially mine. For layaway, when I make my down payment and I make my installments, the good is put aside for me. I don't get it, but they put it aside for me. So that when I finish making all my payments, I could collect the good. Right? So with hire purchase, I will get the good immediately, even though it's still not mine. I will get the good immediately. Layaway, they'll put it away for me until I'm finished making the payments. And see, list 4 functions of consumer organizations. Do you know what consumer organizations are?
Um,
If you
no.
don't, it's okay. Those are organizations that were created to help and protect consumers and their rights. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So different things they do to educate them about their rights and responsibilities. Because how would you know if your rights are being violated if you don't know what your rights are?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, you need to know what are your responsibilities as well. What you're supposed to do as a consumer, which will help protect your rights. Right? They also deal with complaints. So if you have an issue, you can go to them according to what the issue is, and they can help come to a proper conclusion. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They protect consumers by creating laws and regulations and stuff like that. And they also do product testing to ensure that the products are up to par, again for the protection of consumers. Then they said Venus Communications Limited provides mobile phone services to the citizens of Peanut Island. The management of the company is concerned with the business is often openly criticized for its poor customer service. Explain one way in which poor customer service is likely to affect the success of Venus Communications Limited. 3 marks, one way. Explain. So you'll go into a little detail, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you have poor customer service, you ever hear about a company called, let me don't call no company name, huh? If you have poor customer service, it could lead to you getting a bad rep. And if you have a
Mm-hmm.
bad reputation, that means some people who never even bought from you before may not want to buy from you again. Right? So if you get a bad reputation because customers who had interactions with you start to speak out, talk to their friends and family, or even make public posts about it, it could lead to the company losing potential future customers, which could lower their sales in the long run. And then it asks, explain how online chats or surveys could be used by the management of Venus Communications Limited to improve the company's customer service. Explain, 3 marks. See?
Mm-hmm.
When they say explain, you'll see 3 marks per answer. So if they ask for 2 ways, you'll see 6. Right? But they're asking for one explanation, 3 marks. Right? So you could use online chats to gather information from customers. You could use surveys to gather information from customers. Management could use that information to find out what customers like and what customers dislike, and then make decisions to repair that relationship with customers and improve the customer service. So I do a survey and 10 customers say that they find that the customer service reps not trained on how to talk to customers, I could thank them for the feedback and conduct some training exercises with my customer service reps. So hopefully the customers will see an improvement with how the customer service reps communicate with them, which would improve the company's overall customer service. I notice a lot of these answers, maybe not all, but some of them, you could answer without ever reading a POB textbook. Huh?
Yeah, the first ones.
Mm-hmm. Just from knowing everyday life. So number 5, this is a topic that you would have definitely. Number 4 is you might have covered in Form 5. Number 5 is a topic you definitely would have covered in the later part of the syllabus. They actually define the term business technology, right? This is any form of technology that is integrated for the use of business. Any form of any integration of technology. Then they said list 4 factors that determine a country's standard of living and slash or quality of life for its citizens. So you look at stuff like the unemployment rate. If the unemployment rate is high, chances the quality of life and standard of living is low. Employment rate is low, unemployment rate is low, then the quality of life and standard of living is probably high. The availability of healthcare, the availability and the level of education, the crime rates, how affordable accommodation is, the GDP per capita, the amount which is the amount of income on average each person makes, or the value of all the products in a country, stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it said define each of the following terms: gross domestic product and gross national product. So I'm going to explain the difference between both of them, right? Domestic means home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the value of all the goods and services produced within a country, domestically, in the country. National means the country on the whole, right? By a country. So this is
Mm-hmm.
the total value of goods and services produced by a country. So in the gross domestic product, it has to be all the goods and services within the country. So inside of Trinidad and Tobago, for example, and gross national product would be by Trinidad and Tobago. So it could be Trinidad and Tobago citizens that's in Barbados. It would be part of the gross national product because they are Trinidad and Tobago citizens. All right, so
Okay.
once it's by the country, once it's produced by Trinidad and Tobago, it could be in America, Afghanistan, Uruguay, it will be part of the GNP. But it has to be inside of Trinidad and Tobago locally to be part of the GDP. You understand the difference?
Yeah.
Then he said low levels of production is a major economic problem facing Caribbean countries. Outline two possible solutions other than education, which is like one of the first things they would go to this economic problem. For one, you can invest in more technology. If you have more technology, you can produce more things, right? For example, let's say I'm making panchakram, but I am blending my panchakram by hand, and I've blender in my hand. That will take a while, right? But if I have
Mm-hmm.
an industrial blender where I can make 20 panchakram at once, and so I'll be able to produce more,
Yeah.
at the same amount of time, I could produce more. Right? So investment in technology could definitely lead to an overall increase in production. Right? If you have better resources as well. So the raw materials you use are better quality. So you get more out of it than it would have before. Right? That could also lead to an increase in the production of goods and services. Right? Education have been a good one as well, and training, but it said besides education. Right? So you notice they use the word outline, and it was 2 marks each. So when they say state, it's normally be 1, outline 2, explain 3. That seems to be the trend, right? Explain 2, so that will be 6 marks. You see?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Explain 2 ways in which the investment in education, which is why they said besides education in the first one. Explain 2 ways in which the investment in education by the Caribbean government can lead to an increase in the production of goods and services in a region. So it can lead to the improvement of the skills of the workforce. And if they are more skilled, that means they'll become more efficient. And that would increase the production rate overall, right? They could also create new innovative ideas on how to produce the goods and services, which can also lead to increase in productivity overall. Right? It could also lead to more people understanding how to produce goods and services. Maybe learn how to produce new goods and services. Right? And because it have more people that know how to produce these goods and services, there's now more people they could hire. And if it have more people they could hire, they could definitely lead to an increase in overall production. Because 10 people producing goods and services as opposed to 30 people producing goods and services, you're going to have more production. So you'll have more skilled workers and you'll have a larger number of workers, both of which could lead to an increase in production. And that is the end of the test. Not too bad, right?
Yeah, not too bad at all.
Mm-hmm. I see a lot of people getting ones. All right, so we'll end here with this test. And we shall continue later on. I'm hoping to get a paper one soon.
Mm.